Welcome, everybody. Apologies for the wee delay getting started, but we're so glad that you've joined us. If you're looking for Food Systems Friday, then you are definitely in the right place. Today we're excited to talk about a fellowship opportunity, but we'll give folks just another minute or two to pop on, especially since we were just a little bit delayed, but so pleased that you could all join us today. And excited to be here with a bunch of my colleagues. I see some names that I recognize, so happy to see you all. Yeah, I think we have enough folks here. I know y'all were in the waiting room, so thanks so much for being patient with us. But welcome everybody to Food Systems Friday. And as you know, we are organized by the Sustainable Food Systems faculty at Prescott College. And my name is Robin Currey. I'm the Associate Dean for Academic Innovation and Director of the Sustainable Food Systems programs here at Prescott College, where we offer bachelor's and master's degrees in sustainable food systems. And our programs are really organized around supporting students in their own communities in their efforts to build more sustainable food systems. We are online programs and intentionally online programs so that we can help all of you meet that goal. We launched the Food Systems Fridays webinar series in 2020 as we were experiencing food shortages and first diving into to COVID. And our initial goal is the same as it is now, which is to support all of you and your communities as you work to transform food systems. So this series and today also focuses on the policies, practices, and people who can show us and help us learn about models of sustainable food systems and communities. So really today we're focusing on approaches to capacity building and training of students for the jobs of the future that can help transform agricultural systems to ones that are based on ecosystem services, soil health, and ideally food systems that foster public health and regenerative rural economies. So I have a few folks to introduce today. And so I would like to begin by introducing Dr. Wendy Sue Harper. Welcome, Wendy Sue. Oops, mute.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Wendy Sue. Wendy Sue is faculty in the Sustainable Food Systems program here at Prescott College, and she will be our discussion facilitator today. So welcome. And I am also pleased to introduce Eleanor Tyson, who is also faculty in our Sustainable Food Systems and Environmental Studies and Sustainability program at Prescott College. Welcome, Eleanor.
Hello, everyone.
And I'd also like to welcome Dr. Barbara Gemmill-Herren.
Yeah, greetings, everyone. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. So Dr. Barbara Gemmill-Herren is also faculty at Prescott College, and she is the co-PI and co-director with me on this exciting opportunity that we have, fellowship opportunity that we have for students. But I just wanted to share just a little bit more about Barbara. So we're really excited to share that her edited volume just came out. It's True Cost Accounting for Food, Balancing the Scale. So congratulations on the release of your new book with your co-editors.
Thank you.
And Barbara is also a senior associate to the World Agroforestry Center, and she has supported the United Nations work on agroecology and true cost accounting in agriculture. And she coordinated the United Nations International Pollinator Initiative, which will help you start to understand some of the themes that are in our research and extension experience for undergraduates program that we're launching and speaking about today. So welcome to all of you, and thank you for being here today. So I just want to take a moment to talk about the Zoom protocol. So most of y'all are muted and also have your cameras off. So please feel free, the liberty that you know that provides you while you're listening in today. But if you would like to ask questions of us or have questions about the program, please do pop those into either the Q&A section that you see at the bottom of your screen, and you're welcome to pop into the chat also. The chat is being moderated. I just want to let you all know that we are recording this, and we really appreciate your supporting us to do that. So we make this webinar available for free via our website for folks who are unable to attend when we are live. So please understand that when you participate in the chat, that that might be distributed, or that folks might be able to see you doing that. And of course, your camera is muted right now, but we really do appreciate the ability to record this and make it available for those who can't be there. But having said that, I would encourage you all to participate in the chat also by introducing yourself and perhaps the organization that you're affiliated with, so that we can get to know each other a little bit along the way. And so what I would like to do at this point is to hand the mic over. I have two hats today, one as an introducer, but then I'm going to switch into a panelist mode, and Dr. Harper is going to take over from here as we talk about the opportunity that we are really searching for students that we would love to work with around building ecological skill sets for food system transformation. The BEST program. Wendy Sue.
Thank you so much, Robin. And I have put the bios for both Dr. Currey and Dr. Gemmill-Herren in the chat, as well as a link to Dr. Gemmill-Herren's book. So Research and Extension Experiential Learning Fellowships for Undergraduate program is entitled Building Ecological Skillsets for Transitions to Sustainability in Agriculture and Food Systems, BEST. Why this project? Barbara.
Unmute. There I go. Okay, great. Okay, I'm very happy to talk about this a bit more. Just what the idea has been behind the project. It was Robin and I sort of brainstormed on this together in response to a NIFA call for experiential education for undergraduates. And so the basic idea behind this was that, of course, we all recognize this urgent need to transform our food systems to ones that are more nourishing of people and the earth, promoting ecological and social cohesion. There's not much disagreement on that point, but how is this to be done? What are the brass tacks of getting there? So this BEST program, as we've conceived it, is seeking to create an opportunity for students wanting to build capacity in the growing field of sustainable food and agriculture systems to support those skills that are much needed, but are actually very little taught in traditional agricultural education, ecological skills in agriculture. The first slide, perhaps, if I think we have somebody controlling the slides. Here we go. Okay, so the USDA has been predicting, along with Purdue University, trends in employment in this sector. And they're predicting a very strong trend of employment opportunities for college graduates in food, agriculture, renewable natural resources, and the environment through 2025, with the demand really strongly exceeding supply. But the job categories that they divide this into sound pretty conventional. Simply supporting, not simply supporting, but supporting the food system that we have now with all of its recognized environmental and social costs. What if we could encourage new kinds of employment in all of these categories? these categories of management, science, food production, governance, that have skills really focusing on transforming food. Or what if we could design training programs for those people interested in becoming, again, these are USDA identified career opportunities, ecosystem managers, agri-science educators, crop advisors, and pest control specialists, along with e-commerce managers and marketing agents, if we could design the training programs innovatively to bring new expertise into the food and agriculture sector, to transform current agricultural systems to ones that are based on, as Robin has said, ecosystem services, soil health, food systems that foster public health and revitalization for rural communities. So we call these ecological skill sets to create diverse new employment niches in the food system that we want to see. We believe this is not only possible, but can be a strong regenerative force linking rural communities and urban dwellers, all of whom care about their food. If we can have the next slide then. So I particularly like this graphic from my colleague Lucas Garibaldi, who looked at data around the world showing that greater farm and crop diversity, just taking one part of the picture, leads to greater diversity of employment niches and overall increased employment. It's a really interesting illustration, I think, because we're often given the impression that intensive production of crops, forests, natural resources in an industrialized, highly mechanized manner of monocrops is the only path out of poverty and to prosperity. But Lucas's research showed that diverse agriculture does not sacrifice socioeconomic development or economic growth. And I think this concept of building out those employment niches is a task that we have before us. So what kind of, I think maybe we can lead on to the next question.
Thank you. So what kind of training can transform agriculture and food systems?
So we have diverse answers here, but to begin with, the next slide, there's this concept of ecosystem services, which are, it's a concept that we teach at Prescott. It's been talked about quite a lot, this typology of ecosystem services, just the fact that nature provides many, many benefits. And there's some tricky parts to that logic. I think we're coming away from saying it's only a benefit to people. Nature is regenerative of itself. But among the benefits is provisioning, growing things, regulating, being able to regulate pests, being able to provide pollination services, the important service of providing habitat for living organisms. And then equally within ecosystem services are cultural services. The fact that many religious and belief systems are very much linked to nature, and much of our recreation is linked to nature. So a few ideas of how important biodiversity and ecosystem services are simply to food and farming. If we go to the next slide. We're seeing the whole slide. I'll just talk through it. I think okay, there we go. Just a few factoids. I'd rather like these factoids. Just the idea that there's more living individual organisms in a tablespoon of soil than there are people on the earth. That every third bite of food you eat depends on pollinators. And if you don't have good pollination, if you have good pollination, you get a nice, robust strawberry, as on the left. And the one on the right, if you don't have good pollination, you get simply a rather miserable little strawberry that nobody really wants to eat. And then the whole aspect of agrobiodiversity, local and indigenous varieties of food may have 1,000 times the nutrient content of the more common varieties. And that's something that we're rediscovering here in the United States, along with many communities around the world, to not lose their local and indigenous varieties of food. So what do these ecosystem services and biodiversity have to offer to regenerative rural communities? I think in the United States, our rural areas have seen a lot of depopulation and consolidation of farms over the last 50 to 100 years, but that does not need to be the trend. And in fact, there's many possible comparisons that can be made today between large-scale industrial agriculture and small-scale diverse systems. For example, between CAFOs, confined animal feedlot operations, and those that retain locally owned farms where animals are finished on farm through low input grass-fed systems, where more virtuous cycles within the local community is possible. And that relates to the degree that money stays in the community. Locally owned and controlled farms tend to buy their supplies and services locally, supporting a variety of local businesses and jobs. It's estimated that for every dollar earned on a locally owned farm generates 7 times that value to the local community. And in contrast, individual farm animal facilities have a much lower multiplier effect because they purchase feed, supplies, and services. Their purchases tend to leave the community and going to suppliers and service providers mandated by the vertical integration of their business. So the Research and Extension Experiential Learning for Undergraduate Funding, CALL, very wisely, I believe, recognized the need to build skills that are not normally a part of agricultural education. Critical and problem-solving thinking skills and communication skills through experiential education. In essence, the challenge to be addressed is to build the capacity of students to think holistically and strategically in assisting communities and organizations to make transitions to more ecological, sustainable farming and food systems. And to do this, one aspect of it that we want to address in this program is the need to develop supportive policy and planning environments. So we will also focus on helping our fellows to develop short, concise, but powerful policy briefs for policymakers, planners, and decision makers. So I think we can go to the next question.
Thank you so much, Barbara. So what are the building blocks for addressing these training needs? Robin.
Yeah, well, there's so many. Barbara and I struggled with the rest of the team when we were working on formulating this fellowship opportunity about where to put our focus. And that really led us to the conclusion that because it's so complicated, really one of the main building blocks is a complicated one, and that is focusing on systems thinking. And so in systems thinking, it's really an approach to integrating lots of different ideas and even possibly solutions to some of our food systems issues based on the belief that when components of a system are taken in isolation, they operate one way. But when components of a system are put together, they operate and function in a different manner. And so in food systems, for example, we can look at production as being a component of the food system, or we can look at distribution as being a component of a food system. And we can look at consumption, our nutrition and our eating habits, those being another component of the system. And we could study them all individually, which is what we're really good at doing in the United States in our educational system here. But then what happens if we start spending more of our time examining the interconnections? And so the study of those interconnections, examining the linkages and interactions between the components, is really what we're talking about when we're talking about systems thinking. And interestingly, Barbara already mentioned it in her previous slide when she was talking about the different varieties of plants that have an extreme range in their nutrient content. Well, now all of a sudden we have a linkage between our production, and our origin, so which varieties, and biodiversity and agrobiodiversity, and then our nutrition, which are traditionally looked at separately in separate silos. So we're really interested and think that the jobs of the future are going to be those that ask of students and ask of the folks that they're hiring that higher level understanding to not just look at like what my role is and what my component is, but really thinking about the interactions and how they play off one another. And really the food systems realm is not the only realm that is seeing this need for more systems thinking. There are two recent reviews I'll just mention from two adjacent areas of study, being both social work, because of a lot of our food insecurity challenges. Oftentimes people who are engaged in social work are also engaged in food systems work, but then also public health. Healthy ecosystems is our course linked with healthy people. And both of the accrediting organizations for social work and for public health identified systems thinking as being gaps in their curriculum also, and needed in the workforce and for those jobs of the future. So, systems thinking is going to be a component of the program where students will have some training and resources made available to them through the course of their fellowship, so that they can do a great job once they are in their placement sites, which we'll talk about just a little bit more. But when it's not just about systems thinking, it's also about some of those ecological skill sets, with an eye on the ecosystem services that Barbara was speaking about. Barbara, is there anything else that you'd like to say about the ecological skill sets and ecosystem services? Oops, mute.
Sure, I'll just take you through a couple of more sort of slides, just sketching out a little bit. I think we have many aspects to this, but just to kind of help, sometimes I've realized that we talk too quickly about ecosystem services without illustrating it sufficiently. So I just had these, and this was from some work I had done when I was at FAO, this talking about how ecosystem services integrate across the landscape, because they're not individual things. And there's a tendency to kind of put dollar signs on them and say, oh, ecosystem services, that's carbon sequestration. Well, no, it's how it works into the whole ecosystem. And that's how we want to look at it. So this was, I worked on a project with some European colleagues, and I love them. They're excellent scientists. And this was their example of a very integrated system in the Netherlands, which is an amazingly simplified and productive system. And they've reintroduced here more organic approaches and the windmills that Netherlands is very famous for. And that's a step. And I think you can do this in any kind of ecosystem. But if we go to the next slide, this was work we had done in Indonesia on rice ecosystems, which are just amazing, in my opinion. They're just incredible, because in this system, it's producing rice, it's producing food, but it's also producing its own natural pest control, tremendous value in religious beliefs around rice ecosystems, which are often controlled by the religious elders, recreation and tourism, their erosion prevention. The biodiversity in rice paddies in Indonesia has been shown to be higher than in some natural water bodies. It's just an amazing system that kind of recreates itself. Carbon sequestration is there too, but it's not the only thing. So just to kind of convey the holistic nature of this. If we go to the next slide. And I think you click a few times on these. Yeah, just how did we fail to appreciate biodiversity and ecosystem services? If you can click on that slide again, that's Eleanor, I think. I think it brings in a couple more. Oh no, takes you back. It's okay, just go on to the next one. That we have had, we have these services, as we show underneath. We have dung beetles moving around the dung. The role of insects in the soil is tremendous. The ability of natural ecosystems to provide water purification and watershed qualities, natural pest control and pollination. These all traditionally have really supported our crop production and also livestock production, the pastures. Our agriculture, so we go to the next slide then. And a few more clicks here, I think, yeah. So that was supporting our food, nourishing people. But then the system now has evolved in the US and in many places where we override these natural ecosystem services, and we bring in external products of pesticides, hybrid seed, GMOs, and we sort of circumvent the natural system. But if we go to the next slide, or again, but we can rebuild, and we can work with communities to rebuild these forces of nature. And we can do that in any agroecosystem, I believe. So we can do that working with specific ecosystem services and how they fit together. And often, this will be another aspect of our program in the next slide, is to understanding landscape management for regenerative agriculture. That we're all in, communities all work across a landscape, and there are many functions that create dispersal from one farm to another farm, that provide watershed services to the farms downstream. So we bring in this landscape perspective, I think is an important part, and we will focus on that in this program. And then finally, one more slide. And that will include working with our fellows to generate policy analysis that can show the value in supporting ecosystem services and related enterprises. This particular policy brief, I think Robbie may be on the call. She was one of our stellar students and extremely adept at graphic design. That was just, it's not actually about ecosystem services, but it's so attractive. I just wanted to show an example of what we learned to sort of put together. So that will be part of the program. So I hand it back to you, Robin.
I love it. Yeah, I think Robbie is here. So wonderful. Yeah, well, I think one of the reasons why we have this focus on policy is that we really want, if we're thinking about this systems thinking and systems approaches, and we're thinking about topics that are generally covered across different disciplines, one doesn't always encounter in their ecological studies support for learning the skill sets that are involved in bringing about change through policy change. And so this is the big cross-cutting theme that our fellows will also be encountering and be working on through their internship placements. So we'll speak a little bit more about that later, but I don't know, maybe this is the time to talk about, who this program is for, or am I jumping the gun on you, Wendy Sue? Wendy Sue's nodding.
It's time.
It's time. It just seemed like the right time to talk about that. So, Eleanor, if you could pop ahead a slide. And so there's a couple pieces here. So this opportunity is targeted at undergraduate students, and as a system science, the study of food systems, which is the bias that we have on this panel today, but we are looking for folks who are coming from different disciplinary backgrounds associated with the food system. So that means you can be majoring in nutrition, you can be or in dietetics, you could be majoring in education, you can be majoring in environmental studies, you can be majoring in agriculture, of course, you can be focusing on marine studies, because we talk about food systems a lot and agriculture, but we globally get a significant portion of our animal source protein from seafood and fish and fisheries. So please understand that we're also nodding towards marine culture and aquaculture when we're talking about agriculture. And these are we are looking for students who are at the junior standing, so a little bit further along in their studies. So we're hoping that you have at least 60 credits under your belt, and that's partly because we're asking you to synthesize a lot of the different coursework that you've had, and if you haven't had that much coursework yet, it's a little harder to synthesize across all of it. So we're looking for just a little bit of experience under your belt with the courses. We are looking for students who are currently enrolled in an undergraduate program. And so the official start date, and we can talk a little bit more about that, is going to be October 19th. And so we just want to make sure that you're enrolled somewhere on October 19th, which will be the case for most students who are starting classes either in the upcoming weeks or have already started classes like we did this last week at Prescott College. And one of the things that I really want to make a point of emphasizing is that online students are welcome. You do not have to be just in Arizona, or you do not have to be a Prescott College student, although actually about over half of our students at Prescott College are online students. So we know how to do experiential education online, and we do it by encouraging folks to apply what they're learning in the online classroom to their communities. And so also in thinking who is the program for, we made it very clear to USDA and NIFA in our application that there is a correlation in the United States in education, that we know that online students are more likely to be independent students. And so these students tend to be a little older and have perhaps had challenges accessing their education when they graduated high school, but are now in a place where studying is something that they really want to do. But sometimes there are other folks who have just reasons for staying in one place and not wanting to go away to college. And these reasons can be everything. I'll speak from our own students here at Prescott College, from childcare responsibilities and parent care. And especially in the middle of COVID, it's been a little more challenging for folks to make that transition to a college town, but still want to access higher education. But we also are seeking to interest students who are historically underrepresented in the food and agriculture field. And so we would encourage you all to not think, gosh, I can't get to Arizona where Prescott College is, or goodness, I don't know if I can actually physically relocate for this. So we just wanted to make that point, that there are opportunities for online students. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So as you're considering, and I would really encourage all of those who have joined us today to please feel free to nominate students, reach out to them directly if you think that they would be interested in this fellowship opportunity, because sometimes we all just need a little bit of a nudge, to think, oh, I could do that. And so that you have a little more information about the parameters This is a 6-month-long fellowship, and it's a little longer than some of the internship opportunities that we all may be used to seeing. And part of that is because we really wanted students to be able to take a deep dive into the training and preparatory course material and courses that we have available for them. So we are quite literally going to be paying our students to go to school. And we want to do this so that students who are needing to work part-time jobs to support themselves through college have some elbow room. Perhaps they could step away from that job and let us provide support on behalf of USDA NIFA for them to really dive into their studies. So even though 6 months may seem like a long time, you may be thinking, oof, it's 3 months of compensated training time, followed by a 3-month placement with a host organization. And so we'll talk a little bit more about those placements in just a sec. And I'm so pleased to have one of the hosts for a potential placement here also. Maybe we can get Robbie promoted to presenter here in a moment. But then also, in addition, fellows will be teamed up with at least one faculty mentor here at Prescott College. And I'd like to introduce those faculty mentors to you. Not everybody could be here today, but I have a slide that shares more information about them. And then of course, there's a host organization. And so I'll talk more about that in just a sec. So could we have the next slide, please? So yay to our partners. A special thank you to the Alaska Food Policy Council. So the Alaska Food Policy Council has expressed a willingness to host a fellow. The Composting Association of Vermont is a partner of ours, as is the Prescott Farmers Market. So I wanted to let you know about these organizations, and you can see they're all over the United States. Only one is in Arizona, but these are illustrative. I'd like to share a couple other partners and then explain what I mean by illustrative also. So the Prescott College has a couple other centers that are affiliated that have also expressed interest in supporting fellows, and that is the Keno Bay Center, which is focused on and we have a picture there, thank you, Eleanor, of Lorraine Metzer, who's the director of the Keno Bay Center, and they have a strong impact, emphasis on marine ecology and the socioeconomic impacts of fisheries, and working with the communities that are there in the Keno Bay of Mexico. And Ed Boyer is the former director of the Keno Bay Center. And, those are two folks who could be mentors for students who are interested in marine systems, marine studies, marine ecology, and ecosystem services related to aquatic systems. Another organization that has expressed interest is the DuPuy Center, the Prescott College's DuPuy Center, and they are based in Kenya. Regretfully, this year, it's for the placements that are starting in October, that won't be an option, but I just wanted to acknowledge them. They will be an option in the years that follow. This is a 4-year opportunity. So if you know somebody who this year it's just not the right fit, well, we'll have other opportunities in the years to come. So watch this space. So I wanted to just introduce, you've already met Dr. Harper. Dr. Harper is a soil scientist and engaged in soil and compost ecology, and also deeply embedded in the organic certification and support of those who are transitioning to organic. Dr. Jeremy Johnson, if you're interested in disease control and disease management, especially in forests and the linkages with genetics, Jeremy would be a wonderful person for you to partner with, but also an expert in geographic information systems. And we have Eleanor Tyson here today, and her area of expertise is community food systems and food justice and ethnography. And you've already met Barbara and I, and so we would be faculty mentors for potential partnerships. And Eleanor, if I could have you pop on one more slide. Yeah, thank you. So so the other thing I wanted to mention, actually, could you please go back to the faculty? I think it makes more sense with the visual on that. Thank you. So the other thing I wanted to mention, because we are encouraging folks from all over the United States to consider the best REU opportunity, is that if you are in a community and there's an organization that you would very much like to be engaged with, and you would like for us, for Barbara and I, to help facilitate that placement, we invite that and welcome that. And so you know, we have a deep appreciation for our partners, but as I mentioned, there are 6 fellowships that we are in a position to offer annually. And we have as I mentioned before, the Alaska Food Policy Council and the Composting Association of Vermont and the Prescott Farmers Markets. That's only 3. So we expect that fellows will be exploring opportunities in their own communities. And as part of the application process, we actually ask you to indicate who a potential partner might be for you. And we will work to help make that happen. So I think that takes care of some of the bare bones, and I'll hand it to you, Wendy Sue. Oops.
So what are the outcomes?
Oof. Well, maybe for the outcomes, maybe now is the time, Eleanor, for that next slide, please. So before we get to the outcomes, so there's a number of themes that students can focus on, and Barbara really took the lead on the formulation of some of these themes. So I think I'll hand it to you now, and folks have heard me speak for a while now.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Robin. And I did create this slide, and now I see that I cut and pasted year 1 too many times. So it should be year 1, year 2, and year 3. And it will be a 4-year program. So in year 4, we'll be able to sort of sort out what we want to do in year 4 along these themes. But we had intended that in year 1, we would focus on agrobiodiversity and the delivery of pollination and pest control services. So just, sort of thinking this out, it was going to be really exciting to see what kind of applications we get and what suggestions of partners. But as an example, we might have a farmer's market that really wants to help its farmers understand how to build up more of its pollination in producing fruits and vegetables, and also, as most farmers markets are fairly organic, how they can work on pest control, better pest control services for their particular pests in that region. And that could also have some very interesting policy implications. So that would be in the first year. I mean, and also very much using diversity is one of the strongest tools you can for delivery of pollination and pest control services. Then in year 2, we wanted to work to have the focus be and have the fellows have a real interest in landscape level approaches, the management of productive landscapes to mitigate pollution and disease. So some examples from this could be, we have had at Prescott a number of students who are in very highly productive agricultural regions like Iowa and Illinois, who are very aware of how much nitrates are going into the water and causing a tremendous problem also all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico. Could there be some landscape solutions, since we're really not succeeding in preventing each farm? Perhaps it needs to be across a landscape, how we could better filter out the pollution that goes into the waterways. And in terms of disease prevention, Jeremy Johnson is very knowledgeable about using landscape level measures and looking at how disease is transmitted across a landscape, particularly with forests, some principles that can be applied in many other instances. So this will be a very interesting year of encouraging producer communities, whether it's fisheries, forestry, or farms, to work together in managing a landscape, or to at least propose the ideas of how they might be able to do that. And then the last year is the development of community-based ecological agricultural enterprises, with this idea that if we introduce more diversity into our productive systems, can we build out those employment niches and enterprise niches in value chains that really respond to the diversity that's being proposed? Now, of course, a fellow placed 3 months within an organization is not going to build a whole value chain themselves, but they can be a real, eyes on what could happen, and kind of in a very diplomatic way proposing what changes could be possible. So that we think that will also be a very interesting year. But this is year 1, year 2, year 3, despite what the slide says. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And I think I'd like to add to this, because if students who are thinking about applying for the fellowship for this year are really interested in composting, for example, which might be a tighter fit with the development of a community-based ecological enterprise, you're still welcome to apply. We'll just be having a little bit more of a focus on our training on agrobiodiversity and the delivery of pollination and pest control services. But of course, these are linked issues. So I don't want you to feel like, if you're listening to this, say like, oh, I can't apply this year. So I just wanted to, bring that to our shared attention. And so as I mentioned about the remuneration in the fellowship. So I just wanted to share that the idea is that one would participate in a course, this agrobiodiversity and the delivery of pollination and pest control services, and one would receive a stipend for their participation in the course. So look at that, being paid to take a class instead of the other way around. so just to share, and then also we'll be having there's some other necessary skill sets that we wanted to take the opportunity to expose our fellows to. And so one of those is around networking. So how do I build out my network? And so the placements with the organizations is a wonderful place to start. So we'll actually be exposing our fellows to some of the social networking mapping software so that they can track in real time the folks that they're meeting and the connections that they are making. So that is also a skill set that we're hoping to expose students to. And we already talked about the the systems thinking, and so all of this we hope will come together, with a trained and excited fellow at a placement with an organization that is looking forward to working with them, and the support of 2 faculty mentors to those outcomes that you asked about, Wendy Sue. And so ultimately, the host organization will have some things on their mind and on their to-do list. So of course, it'll be tailored to them. But, really the outcomes are a network based on all the connections that you're going to be making. And then the other being an actual policy brief to leave with the host organization with specific and we hope actionable recommendations that can support these sustainable transitions. So that is the product that we hope our students will be able to walk away with, which is applying those ecological skill sets and concepts to the creation of the policy brief and getting embedded in the power that local policy and local policy change can have for food system transformations, or at least exposure to the process by which that can be done, to carry that with them through their careers, which is really what this is about, which is about the jobs of the future that we're going to need for more sustainable food systems.
So, application list.
Yeah, so I think maybe the best thing for the application list is to have folks take a look. I'm just going to go ahead and pop the link for the application in there. It's a little bit of a maybe a non-traditional application, because we really are trying to have this be something that is a low barrier for folks who are located remotely also. So here is the link to the application, and we can also direct students to the landing page for the program. This all has a website that will get sorted for you. Please feel free also, if I could get you, Eleanor, to pop my email into the chat so that folks can see the email. Folks are welcome to reach out directly to me, robin.currey@Prescott, which is how we say it. It's spelled, you can see it on the slide right now, prescott.edu. But here's the basics. So the basics are, so long as you're enrolled, at least that junior standing, and interested in doing this and able and free during those time periods, so able to start the fellowship on October 19th and wrap up the placement by May of 2022. Then how's it in 2022 already? But yeah, May of 2022, you're welcome to apply. So we'll be looking for a resume, a one-page resume, because we're interested in having a holistic understanding of what your background and experience has been. And that helps us. We're also interested in your academic preparation so that we understand that's not eliminating, it is helping us to understand which skill sets you're bringing to the food system. So we'll be looking for an unofficial transcript. Again, we know official transcripts are hard to come by right now, as some of the institutions are still in the process of reopening. So an unofficial transcript, and then we're also looking for a short, brief, do you see a theme here? An outcome will be a policy brief. And so we're looking for an equally brief written statement of interest from you. So 500 words. But then we're also asked, in lieu of a traditional interview, which can sometimes be challenging to get time zones to coordinate and, work obligations. So we're asking that you send us a video. And there's some more information provided in the application, but send us a video essentially talking about how your interests are in alignment with this opportunity and the themes that you see here. And so those are really the main components. We ask for some, of course, name, address, and we invite people to share information about themselves. And so yes, the idea is that it would be low barrier, but we still need enough information. And then the selection process is that those faculty mentors and then also any of the host organizations are invited to help select their candidates, but we will be on the selection committee, and hopefully decisions will be made by the end of September. So we're really looking to launch quickly and get going, because we understand registration timelines for the spring for classes for you as you're thinking about your time and your placements and what you're going to do in the spring are coming up soon also. So yeah, I think that's that. And I'm noticing the time and wonder if there's questions that folks have had. Mute.
There were a couple questions in the chat, Robin. One person asked, is there a reading list of sources for this presentation? They're interested in learning more about these points.
Yes, so you're asking professors if they have a reading list. The answer is a resounding yes, but I think the challenge is how do we get it for you? Barbara, were you preparing to say something?
Well, yeah, just that certainly we do have a reading list. We have also the references that we used in the proposal, and we can put that into a quick reading list. I would say perhaps if you're wanting to have that reading list, perhaps you can put my email in here, and we'll take that burden off of Robin, and you can just send me a message and I'll respond to you with a reading list. Good question.
And I did put, I see Barbara's email is in there. Very good. And then another person was very concerned about disadvantaged students and hosts and expenses, and such as tuition and time not working, etc. And Robin, I wanted to know if you want to address any more of that.
Yeah. So in this particular case, so we're paying students to participate. So the preparatory training and courses are tuition free. They're included in the fellowship. They're included in the fellowship. So the USDA grant funding does not cover tuition, but it does cover our time to help support all of you. And so the point of that story is that no fellow will be asked to pay tuition for participation in any of the preparatory work for this. But the eligibility criteria are that they are active students. So, presumably students are already enrolled in their at their host institutions. And then for the living expenses, this is a fairly generous fellowship. So the total remuneration is up to a little over $11,000. So we're transparent. This is on application materials. So we have this pegged at a living wage, and so that students could manage and make their own decisions in terms of their housing arrangements. And so it's pegged at $16 per hour for participation. And the idea is that in the 3 months leading up to it would, for the training and preparatory courses, roughly we're expecting about 20 hours of effort from students towards preparation for their placement, and then roughly 40 hours at their placement. And so then in some cases, the host institutions may be able to offer the students internship credits for it, but that's beyond the scope of our engagement in the fellowship. So I hope that provides a little more information about it. This is paid.
Thank you so much, Robin. That's all the questions that we had in the chat. And I was wondering, do you have anything more to say? And would you like to do the closing comments, or would you like me to do that?
I defer to Barbara. I've just been talking quite a bit, so.
Okay, no, I see that Jude Waite is just asked if we could make the chat available because she couldn't seem to copy, paste, or save. So I'm trying to save it. I think I have. And then
yeah, that one I can address. So if you go to our website for Food Systems Fridays, the link that we put for the recording for the first week afterwards comes with the chat. And so you will be able to see that chat for the first week. We lose the chat when we move it over to YouTube and the YouTube playlist for our Prescott College channel, but that will be available once we get the recording posted, which will be Monday at the latest.
Great. Okay, no, great. So thank you all. I know people have had to leave, so we're down on our attendees. But just to, a warm thanks for us to give us an opportunity to put this out there, and to it will be a really interesting process, kind of a dating game of linking students who are interested with organizations which can benefit from having the students as fellows for that period of time. And it's sort of thrown open, we can do this anywhere in the US following certain themes. And so it's been really good to bring it forward now. We're really ready to launch it, and we're looking forward, and we look forward to your inputs and thoughts about it as well. So it's a program that I think we'd like to continue thinking all the time about how we build the workforce of the future. And this is one of our first contributions toward that. Great, thanks. So I think we say goodbye from here.
Wonderful. Yep. So Robin, do you want to do closing comments?
Certainly. So thank you all for coming, and we will continue to send out information about this opportunity because we really want as many folks to know about it as possible. So and please feel free to reach out to me, and we'll be back with Food Systems Friday on another topic next month. And thank you to all of you for attending.